The upscale Italian restaurant glowed with soft amber light, crystal chandeliers reflecting off polished marble floors and linen-covered tables. The low murmur of Manhattan's elite filled the room. Hedge fund managers discussing quarterly projections, celebrities leaning close to avoid attention, lobbyists trading quiet favors over Barolo and truffle risotto. Power wore expensive suits here, and confidence sat comfortably in every chair. At a secluded VIP table near the window, Vanessa Cole sat alone. She wore a tailored black dress that conveyed authority without ornament, her posture relaxed but alert. To the casual observer, she might have looked like just another successful executive enjoying a late dinner. But Vanessa Cole didn't exist casually anywhere. At 34, she was a founder and CEO of Horizon Innovations, one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity firms in the world, a company trusted by Fortune 500 corporations and government agencies to protect their most sensitive data. She didn't dine alone because she lacked company. She did it because independence was a statement. 3 men in dark suits entered the restaurant together. They didn't look like criminals. No cheap jewelry. No visible tattoos. Their suits were tailored, their shoes polished, their hair neatly trimmed. They looked like consultants or private equity partners. Exactly the kind of men people didn't question. They walked directly toward Vanessa's table. The first sign of trouble came when the tallest man stepped too close. His hand shot out, gripping Vanessa's wrist hard enough to jolt her chair. Before she could react, the second man swept her wine glass off the table. Crystal shattered against the floor, the sharp sound briefly cutting to the restaurant's ambient hum. The third leaned down, invading her personal space, his breath carrying the faint scent of espresso and threat. "You made a mistake," he whispered, "and mistakes have consequences." Around them, conversations faltered, then resumed. Nearby diners glanced over, registered discomfort, and deliberately looked away. No one wanted involvement. No one wanted trouble. Across the room, Michael Harris set down his serving tray. A moment earlier, he'd been nodding politely as guests at table 12 debated international markets. Now his expression changed. Not dramatically, not visibly to most, but something behind his eyes sharpened. His polite, forgettable demeanor dissolved into something colder, more focused. Michael moved. He crossed the distance in seconds, his steps economical, precise. His hand closed around the wrist of the man gripping Vanessa, not with panic, but with exact placement. He applied pressure at a specific angle, a technique learned through years of repetition. There was a sharp, unmistakable crack. The man screamed as his joint gave way, collapsing to his knees in shock and pain. The sound froze the room. The second attacker staggered backward, suddenly aware that this was no ordinary waiter. The third man hesitated, calculating too late. Michael didn't pursue. He didn't posture. He simply stood there, his presence suddenly commanding, his eyes scanning, measuring. For the first time, fear replaced confidence. Would you believe an ordinary waiter could move with such deadly precision? Stay with us. The truth about this man's identity would leave anyone speechless. Vanessa Cole hadn't built her reputation by chance. She had earned it through calculated risks, long nights, and an unwavering refusal to be underestimated. Horizon Innovations had begun as a struggling startup operating out of a borrowed office space. Within a decade, it became a cybersecurity powerhouse, its encryption software guarding the digital infrastructure of governments and multinational corporations. Her rise hadn't been bloodless. Former partners had been outmaneuvered, rivals crushed by better strategy, traditions broken when they stood in her way. Vanessa moved to the corporate world with the calm efficiency of someone who always knew exactly what she wanted and exactly how to get it. Just a week earlier, she rejected a partnership proposal from Damon Cross. The meeting had taken place in a glass-walled boardroom overlooking the city. Damon Cross sat across from her, impeccably dressed, his smile flawless. His consortium offered funding, protection, and influence. But Vanessa had read the contract carefully. Hidden clauses, intellectual property siphoning, control masked as collaboration. "I don't partner with people who try to steal from me," she said calmly, sliding the contract back across the polished table. The room went silent. Damon's smile never faltered, but his eyes hardened into blue ice. You might reconsider, he said smoothly. Sometimes protection is worth the cost. Vanessa stood, meeting his gaze without blinking. Is that advice, she asked, or a threat? His silence was answer enough. She'd walked away alone and proud of it. Her security team had urged her to hire a bodyguard afterward. Vanessa refused. The moment I need an escort to dinner, she said, is the moment they win. Independence wasn't just a preference. It was her identity. Michael Harris poured water for table 12 later that night, nodding at appropriate intervals. To the restaurant's patrons, he was invisible by design, efficient, unremarkable, professional. At 35, he had perfected the art of being overlooked. He stood 6'2", built with carefully restrained strength. His movements were smooth, controlled, economical. Nothing wasted, nothing flashy. The kind of presence that blended into any environment unless you knew what to look for. The restaurant saw a waiter. His modest apartment in Queens told a different story. Everything inside was arranged with military precision. Books aligned perfectly. Kitchen tools organized by frequency of use. Shoes placed at exact right angles by the door. On his nightstand sat a framed photograph. A beautiful woman with laughing eyes holding a toddler with a serious expression. Michael never moved the picture, not even on the nights when sleep refused to come. What no one at the restaurant knew was that Michael Harris once carried the call sign Ghost. For 11 years, he operated with Naval Special Warfare Development Group, the elite unit within SEAL Team 6. He had moved through shadows in countries that never appeared in news headlines, neutralizing threats before they materialized, extracting high-value targets from places considered impossible to reach. Most of his personnel file was redacted. That life ended 3 years ago. An operation went catastrophically wrong. His team was ambushed. Equipment failed. Intelligence leaked. Michael survived. His wife, Sarah, died in a car accident 2 months later. Since then, he lived in the space between worlds, existing for one reason only, his 7-year-old daughter, Emily. Police sirens shattered the restaurant's elegance. Blue and red lights flashed through tall windows as officers moved in, separating witnesses, collecting statements. The 3 attackers sat handcuffed in separate patrol cars. One grimaced as a paramedic examined his shattered wrist. Crime scene technicians photographed overturned tables and broken glass. Michael stood near the service station, answering questions with calm precision. No, I don't know them. Yes, I saw him grab Miss Cole. No, I didn't intend to break his wrist. I applied only enough pressure to release his grip. His voice never wavered. His posture remained relaxed. Vanessa watched him as a paramedic examined the bruise forming on her wrist. The waiter's composure seemed almost unnatural amid the chaos. Most people would be shaking with adrenaline. He looked ready to return to serving appetizers. When the detective finished, Vanessa approached him. "Thank you," she said. That could have ended very differently. Michael nodded once. Just did what needed doing. "No," Vanessa replied quietly, studying him. "Everyone else decided looking away was what needed doing. You didn't." Something flickered behind his eyes, quickly concealed. "Former military," he offered. She handed him her card. "If there's ever anything you need." Michael accepted it without looking, slipping it into his pocket. "I should help with cleanup." As he walked away, Vanessa knew one thing for certain. Former military didn't explain what she had seen. Meanwhile, 58 floors above Manhattan, Damon Cross stared at the city through floor-to-ceiling windows as the morning light spilled across his penthouse office. A newspaper lay crumpled at his feet. "One waiter," he said quietly. "3 of my men neutralized by a waiter." He turned to his head of security, Victor, a former intelligence operative. "Find out everything about him," Damon said. "Who he is, where he comes from, and why he crossed Vanessa Cole." Victor nodded. "Already started." Damon's jaw tightened. "Everyone has pressure points." "Find his." Michael wiped down tables that night, ignoring the stares. The manager offered him time off. He declined. Routine mattered. Patterns kept him alive. His phone vibrated with a text from his elderly neighbor. "Television people came asking about you." I said nothing. "Is everything okay?" Michael felt the cold weight settle in his stomach. Too late. 3 hours left in his shift. 3 hours to plan their next move. At Horizon Innovations headquarters, Vanessa Cole sat alone behind her desk long after most of her staff had gone home. The city glowed beyond the glass walls, a lattice of light and ambition stretching endlessly outward. To anyone watching from outside, she looked calm, composed, in control. Inside, she was already at war. Her fingers moved rapidly across encrypted terminals, accessing databases most people didn't know existed, and fewer still had permission to touch. Within 20 minutes, her suspicions were confirmed. Michael Harris wasn't just former military. The gaps in his service record were too precise, too clean. The conspicuous absence of detail in his final years of service spoke louder than any official commendation. This wasn't negligence. It was deliberate erasure. Her private investigator's preliminary report arrived moments later. Michael Harris, 35, honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy 3 years ago. Widower, 1 daughter, age 7. No criminal record. Excellent credit. Minimal digital footprint. A perfect civilian profile. Too perfect. Vanessa leaned back, exhaling slowly. She recognized the pattern because she had helped design similar cover identities herself. For government contractors, intelligence operatives, people who needed to disappear without vanishing. Michael Harris wasn't hiding something. He was hiding everything. 2 days later, Michael walked Emily to school as usual. She skipped beside him, chattering excitedly about her solar system project. At 7, she had his serious eyes and her mother's boundless energy. Her backpack was decorated with astronaut pins, her latest obsession sparked by a library book about space. "Will we really move to new apartment, Daddy?" she asked suddenly. Michael squeezed her hand. "Yes, sweetheart. It'll be an adventure. But I like our apartment," she said softly, "and Mrs. Patel, and the park with the good swings." He knelt, adjusting her jacket. "The new place will have good things, too." She hesitated. "Is it because of the men who were mean to that lady?" His pulse spiked, but his face stayed calm. "I heard Mrs. Patel say you were a hero," Emily added, eyes shining. "Were you a hero, Daddy?" "No," he said gently. "I just helped someone who needed it." She smiled, satisfied with that answer. Michael wasn't. As he watched her disappear into the school building, he sensed movement behind him. A black SUV rolling too slowly through traffic. Amateur surveillance. Intentional. A message. The SUV pulled alongside him minutes later. "Mr. Harris." The driver said pleasantly, "My employer would like a word." "I'm late for work," Michael replied, continuing to walk. "Your daughter's in 2nd grade now, right?" The man added casually, "Miss Abernathy's class." Michael stopped. Something old and lethal stirred beneath the surface. "That was a mistake," he said softly. 5 minutes later, he sat across from Damon Cross in a quiet cafe. The man smiled, polished and confident. "You're impressive," Damon said. "Your skills are being wasted." "Not interested." 6 figures. Full benefits. Security for your daughter. You're offering ownership. I'm offering survival. Michael leaned forward, eyes cold. "Mention my daughter again, and what happened to your men will feel merciful." Damon didn't blink. "Threats don't impress me." "That wasn't a threat," Michael replied. "It was a promise." He walked out, knowing one thing with certainty. This was no longer containable. Vanessa's call came minutes later. "I believe you're in danger," she said. Michael listened as she explained everything. Damon's obsession with her encryption technology, the planned breach, the scale of the threat. "I can protect your daughter," Vanessa said. "But we need to act now." Michael weighed the risk. Then he agreed. They moved Emily from school immediately. Midtown crowd swallowed them as Michael scanned reflections, doubled back, changed levels. They weren't followed until they were. A black Audi shadowed their SUV. "Pull over," Michael said calmly. "Hazards on." When the Audi slowed, Michael vanished into shadow. 3 minutes later, the driver lay unconscious in an alley, his weapon disabled, his phone stripped. Michael returned to the SUV as if nothing had happened. "Clear," he said. Vanessa said nothing, but her respect deepened into something heavier, something earned. The Connecticut house was more fortress than retreat. Isolated, secure, invisible, Emily settled in quickly, guided upstairs by Margaret, the housekeeper, who greeted her with cookies and warmth. Michael hugged his daughter tightly. "I'll be back," he promised. "You always come back," she whispered. The next 72 hours passed like controlled chaos. Horizon Innovations shifted servers. Security protocols changed hourly. Damon's attack came and failed. Federal agencies intervened. Evidence surfaced. Damon Cross was arrested on charges that unraveled his empire overnight. The threat ended, not with spectacle, but with precision. 1 year later, sunlight filled the Connecticut garden. Emily Harris turned 8, surrounded by friends' laughter and balloons tied to the fence. Michael watched her blow out her candles, Vanessa standing beside him. "Did you make a wish, Daddy?" Emily asked. Michael smiled softly. "No need." Vanessa slipped her hand into his. "Happy?" she asked. "Getting there," he replied. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to escape. It felt like something worth building.